While COVID may be keeping some of us at home, many people still travel for work and pleasure. Jet lag is a very real consequence they have to face. On today's episode, we'll take a look at jet lag, talk about what it does to us, and recommend some ways that we can overcome it. I'm Jay, and this is Somnilopod. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm glad that you joined me. Today, I want you to think back to the last time you traveled, especially if it was over multiple time zones. Did you travel at night? Was it from east to west or west to east? And did you maintain a regular schedule once you arrived at your destination? Interestingly, all of these things can play a role in how well or how poorly we react to jet lag. Now, jet lag, in and of itself, is a temporary problem, and it affects people who travel across several time zones in a very short period of time. Now, it wasn't so much an issue when you would jump on a boat and it would take you 3 weeks to get to where you were going. Still wasn't so much of an issue when we traveled by train as well, because you still had the opportunity to sort of acclimatize as you got closer to your destination. However, with technology, it made it much more difficult for us and our bodies to be able to become accustomed to traveling through time zones. Now, at its core, jet lag is really a circadian rhythm issue. As you might recall from previous episodes, circadian rhythm refers to those internal or biological clocks. There are structures and processes in our brain and throughout our bodies that help us function. That's why we get sleepy when it's dark and why we're fatigued when we've been awake for a long time. And these are tied very closely to sunlight and to other natural and social cues, eating breakfast, eating dinner, for example. Now imagine shutting yourself in a little metal tube at, say, 3 in the afternoon. And then 8 hours later, you arrive at your destination only to find out that it is 5 a.m. the next day. Your body is ready for a late dinner and bedtime, but the world outside is actually getting ready to start their workday. I've been unfortunate to have had experienced this a time or two. I say unfortunate, but I did get the opportunity to do some traveling. Traveled to Europe and to Italy, and I found that while it didn't take me a whole lot of time to recover, I was much younger than I am now. The thing that really bothered me the most were those light cues. I went to Ireland once with my family, and I was really put off by the fact that the sun was still out at 11 o'clock at night. It took me a while to get used to that. It was difficult for me. So you might be thinking, why is this an issue? Well, whenever someone does travel through time zones, it's going to affect your ability to sleep. So it will result in some insomnia, possibly waking earlier than you would usually wake, or not being able to get to sleep when you normally would. You're going to have some excessive daytime sleepiness and fatigue, so you'll also have difficulty concentrating and functioning at your usual levels. So say you have traveled for a work conference or for a meeting. It's going to take you a little while to get back up to par so that you can function normally. It's also going to affect your mood and contribute to a general feeling of just not feeling well. In addition, and this is what usually happens to me when I travel, especially across the time zones, my stomach is the first thing that is affected. So I always end up having stomach issues. Unfortunately, these issues get worse the farther you travel. And it's not just the distance or the number of time zones that you cross. Studies have found that it is more difficult when you fly east and you lose time than it is when you fly west. You can think of this as being able to stay awake easier when you're tired than it is to fall asleep when you're not sleepy. So traveling east can be a real bummer. Also, frequent flyers, people who fly often, business travelers, pilots, flight attendants, people in transportation, they're going to be affected a lot more by jet lag than the rest of the population. And unfortunately, our age can also contribute to some of the issues that we have with jet lag. Older people tend not to do as well and require a little more time than younger people do to recover. Now, I talk about the number or the amount of time that it takes. Estimates are that it can take 1 to 2 days per time zone that you travel across to get back to normal. So if you're going to be planning to stay a week someplace, it's going to really affect your ability to function at your peak level and to really enjoy yourself. So fortunately, there are some things that you can do to help alleviate or help forestall the effects of jet lag disorder. A lot of those involve doing some things before you actually leave the house. You can gradually, before your trip, start to adjust your schedule, especially if you're traveling east. You can try to go to bed a little bit earlier each night for a few nights before your departure, maybe an hour or two at a time, an hour at a time. That should be helpful for you. Also, make sure that you do not go into a trip being sleep deprived. Make sure that you've gotten plenty of rest ahead of time because you know that the jet lag is only going to make that worse. If you have the opportunity to arrive early, do that, especially if you want to be at top form or at your peak for a meeting or for a conference. You want to be able to absorb that information as best you can, and to be able to function normally. One of the best things you can do, as I mentioned with circadian rhythm issues, you want to be able to expose yourself to some light. So, for example, if you arrive early in the day, you want to get outside. You want your body to start to regulate itself based on the time zone that you're in. And light is going to be one of the best ways to do that. If you have a small travel light that is used for bright light therapy, you can take that with you. If it is nighttime at your destination, do your very best to try to sleep on the plane. Now, this is something that I've always had difficulty doing. I've never been able to sleep on a plane or in a car, mainly because I'm a great big guy in a teeny tiny seat. But some people are able to do that. One thing that you also want to try to stress is to stay hydrated. Interestingly, it's not just the travel across time zones that can affect some of the symptoms of jet lag. It's the cabin pressurization as well as the lack of humidity in the plane. So you want to try to stay hydrated during your flight to decrease the effects of dehydration for when you arrive at your trip. And as far as sleeping on the plane, a lot of people have elected to get themselves some earplugs or headphones, even eye masks. You've seen the little neck pillows that people wear. I highly recommend the use of a noise-canceling headphones. As I mentioned, I don't really sleep, but you know there's always somebody on the plane that has got that laugh that you just can't stand. Or maybe there's a little baby that gets a little bit upset and it may set your nerves on edge. Those noise-canceling headphones are golden. So do your very best to try to follow some of those tips, and hopefully your next trip across time zones will be fruitful and you will enjoy yourself the entire time with a minimal effect from jet lag. I hope this has been informative for you. It's been fun for me. Please subscribe and like on your podcast service. You can contact me at j@somnilopod.com if you have questions, comments, suggestions for future episodes. Also, be sure and follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and keep an eye out on YouTube. I think I'm going to start providing some of the service across that platform as well. So until we talk again, do your very best to make sleep a priority and get some rest.